Listen carefully, for I am about to name something you have been taught never to examine. What you call love is often the most sophisticated form of cowardice. You gather in your relationships, your families, your communities, and you call it connection. But I see the truth beneath the tender words and gentle compromises. You have agreed, all of you, to become smaller, deliberately, systematically, and you celebrate this shrinkage as intimacy. Tell me, when was the last time you spoke a truth in your closest relationship that risked everything? When did you last demand to be fully known rather than comfortably misunderstood? When did you last love someone by challenging them rather than by accommodating them? I do not ask these questions to wound you. I ask them because the stakes are nothing less than your soul. Every day you spend in relationships built on the lie of gentle acceptance, you lose another piece of yourself, and you mistake this amputation for belonging. You are not connecting with another human being. You are both drowning together in shallow water and calling it a pool. The herd moves as one. It has always moved as one. But you believed you had escaped the herd. You believed that the small circle of people you love represents freedom. I say to you, it is the herd perfected. It is the herd made intimate. It is the herd that whispers instead of shouts, that suffocates gently instead of violently, that kills you with the sweetness of its agreement. The transformation begins when you ask, am I loved for who I am, or am I loved for who I have agreed to pretend to be? I watch you in your modern relationships, and I see the same ancient pattern repeated with new language. You speak of unconditional acceptance. You speak of meeting your partner where they are. You speak of holding space for one another. These are beautiful phrases, and they are lies that have become comfortable enough to feel like truth. Here's what actually happens. You enter a relationship. You bring your authentic self, your ambitions, your contradictions, your dangerous impulses, your refusal to be ordinary, and you watch very carefully for the moment when your partner flinches, when they pull back, when they suggest gently that perhaps you could be a bit less intense, a bit less demanding, a bit less yourself. And what do? You accommodate, you soften, you make yourself palatable, you construct an agreed upon mythology. We accept each other completely. But what you have actually done is negotiate a truce. You have both agreed to hide the parts of yourself that might disturb the peace. You have both agreed to be less than you are. This is not love. This is mutual domestication. Consider the mechanics of this process, the slow erosion of authenticity. It begins with small compromises. You silence a thought. You suppress a need. You pretend to enjoy something you find tedious. These are tiny betrayals, so small you can almost ignore them. But they accumulate. Day by day, year by year, you become less yourself and more the version of yourself that your partner can tolerate. The illusion of safety. You tell yourself that this diminishment is safety, that by making yourself smaller, you are protecting the relationship. But what you are actually protecting is comfort. You have traded the terrifying authenticity of genuine connection for the numbing predictability of mutual pretense, the weaponized vulnerability. Modern culture teaches you to believe that sharing your pain creates intimacy. So you tell your partner about your trauma, your fears, your shame, and they respond with compassion. They hold you, and you feel for a moment truly known. But notice what you have done. You have shared the parts of yourself that make you less threatening. You have revealed your weakness, not your strength. You have shown them where they have power over you, Real vulnerability is not confession of weakness. Real vulnerability is the exposure of power, your refusal to diminish yourself, your demand to be encountered at full intensity, your willingness to risk the relationship by being genuinely yourself. The herd as intimate circle. You believe your small family or close friend group represents escape from the herd. But the herd has simply become smaller and more intimate. Everyone still agrees on the fundamental mythology. Everyone still participates in the comfortable lies. Everyone still pretends that the absence of conflict equals the presence of love. I say to you, what you call love is the herd's final victory. It has learned to make you want to conform. It no longer needs to force you, you force yourself in the name of love, in the name of connection, in the name of being a good partner or a loyal friend. The worst relationships are not those marked by obvious conflict. The worst relationships are those marked by perfect agreement, by the absence of disagreement, by the mutual decision to never disturb the comfortable mythology you have constructed together. These relationships do not kill you quickly. They kill you so slowly that you mistake death for peace. But we must go deeper into this mechanism, for it is more insidious than simple compromise. You have created what I will call the machinery of mutual reduction, a system in which both partners unconsciously conspire to keep each other small. Watch how this works. Your partner has ambitions. They speak of them with fire in their eyes. And you, unconsciously, begin to introduce doubt. That's a big risk. Are you sure you're ready? What if it doesn't work out? You frame it as concern. You tell yourself you are being realistic. But what you are actually doing is dampening their fire. You are making their ambition seem dangerous, not to the world, but to the relationship. And they do the same to you. Every time you speak of something that excites you, they introduce a note of caution. Every time you want to push yourself beyond your current limits, they remind you of how much the relationship needs you to be stable, predictable, available. Over time, you both become smaller. Not because either of you is cruel, but because you have agreed, silently, that the relationship itself is more important than either of you becoming who you might become. The tragedy of this is that you call it love, the fear disguised as loyalty. I just want you to be safe. Translated, I want you to remain small enough that you cannot leave me. I want you small enough that I will always be the most important thing in your life, that you will never become so great that you outgrow me. The mediocrity celebrated as compromise. You wanted to be an artist. Your partner wanted stability. So you became something neither of you wanted, an accountant with a hobby. You call this maturity. I call it the slow death of both your souls. The children is the final lock. And then you have children not because you genuinely want them, but because it is what the herd does. Now you have something binding you to this relationship beyond mere agreement. Now the relationship itself becomes sacred, becomes beyond question. You remain, not because you choose to, but because leaving would violate the mythology you have constructed. Here is what frightens you most. If you were truly, authentically yourself in your most intimate relationships, your partner might not choose you. You might discover that you are not actually compatible. You might find that when you stop performing, when you stop hiding, when you stop making yourself palatable, the other person does not actually love you. They love the version of you that you have agreed to present. This is unbearable to contemplate. So instead, you continue the performance. You continue to make yourself smaller, and you call it love. I have observed that the herd is most powerful not when it punishes deviation, but when it rewards conformity with the appearance of freedom. The herd used to operate through explicit force, shunning, violence, exile. But modern culture has discovered something far more effective. It makes conformity feel like choice. It makes the cage feel like sanctuary. And nowhere is this more true than in intimate relationships and close communities. Here, the herd does not crush you with its weight. Instead, it seduces you with intimacy, with belonging, with the sweetness of being understood and accepted. Consider this. What would happen if you were truly yourself in your closest relationships? If you spoke every truth you think? If you pursued every ambition you have without filtering for others' comfort? If you demanded that others match your intensity rather than constantly softening yours? If you refused to pretend to enjoy things that bore you? If you insisted on growing, even if it meant changing the fundamental dynamics of your relationships? Be honest. You already know the answer. The relationships would fracture. The people you love most would feel threatened. They would accuse you of changing, of becoming selfish, of no longer caring about the group. And you are terrified of this. So you remain in the cage. But the cage has bars made of love, so you do not notice them. The cage has been lined with comfort, so you do not feel them. The cage is inhabited by people you care about, so you do not recognize it as a cage. This is the herd's masterpiece, a prison that feels like home. I say to you, every intimate relationship you maintain through the suppression of your authentic self is a betrayal, not of the other person, but of yourself. You are choosing their comfort over your becoming. You are choosing the safety of their acceptance over the danger of genuine love. And yes, I said danger. True love is dangerous. It is the willingness to be fully known and fully rejected. It is the refusal to diminish yourself to make another person comfortable. It is the demand that the person you love match you at your full intensity, or that you walk away. So what does authentic connection look like? What would love become if it were not built on mutual reduction, on gentle lies, on the comfortable agreement to never fully be? I will tell you, it would be terrifying. It would be rare. It would be marked not by the absence of conflict, but by the presence of genuine engagement. It would mean finding people who do not need you to be smaller, people who are threatened by nothing about you, people who love you not in spite of your power, but because of it. Imagine a relationship built on this foundation. Authentic respect rather than unconditional acceptance. You do not accept your partner unconditionally. You respect them conditionally based on whether they are growing, creating, becoming, and they do the same for you. The relationship is not a safe harbor, but a forge. You strike sparks off each other. You challenge each other. You demand that the other person become more than they are. The courage to be truly known. You do not confess your weaknesses to feel vulnerable and accepted. You reveal your strength and your vision and your refusal to be ordinary. And you demand that your partner do the same. You know each other not through shared pain, but through shared ambition. Love as will to power. What if love were not the dissolution of boundaries, but the expansion of them? What if it meant I love you because you make me stronger? I love you because you refuse to let me be mediocre. I love you because together we become more than we could separately. The acceptance of impermanence. Here is the secret that no relationship counselor will tell you. The greatest relationships are often the shortest because they are built not on the assumption of permanence, but on the commitment to grow together for as long as growth is possible. The moment growth stops, the moment either partner chooses stagnation over becoming, the relationship ends. And that is not tragic, that is honesty. True love is not the agreement to remain together forever. True love is the willingness to transform each other, to demand the best from each other, to refuse to let each other be comfortable. True love asks, what are you becoming? Are you still growing? Do you still frighten and inspire me? If the answer becomes no, then love requires you to leave. Because staying is not loyalty, it is cowardice. It is the choice of comfort over authenticity. It is the herd's final embrace. I have shown you the machinery. I have named what you have been calling love and revealed it as conformity. I have asked you to consider whether the people closest to you truly know you or simply know the version of you that you have agreed to present. And now you stand, as always, at a crossroads. One path. You return to your relationships as they are. You continue the gentle performance. You continue to make yourself smaller in the name of acceptance. You continue to accept your partner's diminishment in the name of love. You grow old together in comfortable mediocrity, wondering, in the rare moments when you are honest with yourself, what you might have become if you had not chosen to stop growing. This path is safe. This path feels like love. This path is death disguised as connection. The other path, you become dangerous. You refuse to diminish yourself. You demand to be fully known. You seek out relationships, whether romantic, familial, or communal, that are built not on the agreement to be comfortable, but on the commitment to grow. You accept that this path is lonelier. You accept that you may lose people you love. You accept that true connection is rare because it requires both people to be willing to be transformed. And yet, and this is what the herd fears most, you become alive. You stop performing. You stop hiding. You stop shrinking. This is the choice before you now. The herd's embrace. The herd calls it love, but you know better. Will you return to the cage, even knowing what it is? Or will you finally step outside and discover what authentic connection actually means? Not the sweetness of agreement, but the fire of genuine encounter between two people who have both refused to be ordinary. The herd is waiting for you to return. It is patient, it is kind, it promises that if you just make yourself a little smaller, you will finally belong. But I ask you, at what cost? What becomes of you when you have made yourself so small that you disappear entirely